Welcome back all. Final installment, part 3 of lecture 10, PowerPoint 10. We're going to take a few minutes here, not going to go into great detail, but we're going to take a few minutes here to talk about the rise and power of the Catholic Church and more specifically its decline. And part of the reason we're going to take a look at this here, a brief snapshot here, is to set the stage in what's happening in Western Europe and also set the stage for weeks ahead when we talk about this Protestant Reformation. Problems within the Catholic Church that are going to cause people across Europe to start to question the institution. Arguably amongst the most powerful of popes in Catholic Church or papal history is Pope Innocent III. How innocent Pope Innocent III is, that's subject to some historical debate. What is less debatable, however, are many of the changes that he will put into place to make the Pope or Bishop of Rome the most powerful position in Europe, even over kings. As the dates suggest, Pope Innocent's going to come to power just after the Third Crusade, so right about between the Third and Fourth Crusades. And he's going to be an individual that is going to be a proponent of continuous crusading. Let's go recapture that Holy Land. At the same time, he's going to be pushing kings to advance the power of the Catholic Church or the Bishop of Rome. At the same time, Pope Innocent is establishing a very elaborate bureaucracy known as a curia, which is going to govern all church affairs. In some ways, kind of like the old Byzantine Empire. He's also going to understand that he can use religion for political gain if necessary as well. An example, he begins to roll out this concept known as excommunication, which means if one were to be excommunicated from the Catholic Church, you're thrown out of the church. And that would mean not just perhaps spiritual damnation, eternal damnation, but also social death. It's akin to, in some ways, being shunned in the Amish or Mennonite world today. No fellow Catholics are going to do business with you. Therefore, even the suggestion of excommunication can cause kings, lords, and nobles to modify their behavior. You can't fall out of favor with the Pope. If you do, it means your ruin. For those outside the Catholic faith, Innocent III establishes an inquisition. What this means is that anyone, if thought to be practicing some type of spirituality beyond that established by the curia, that papal bureaucracy, you would be brought before this inquisition. If found guilty, at the very least, you will be branded. In most cases, you will be burned alive or killed in some other way. That's it. No questions asked. The Pope's goal here is order. And lest we think it's just all order through fear, establishing this great bureaucracy, this inquisition, potentially manipulating kings with this power of excommunication, understand he recognizes too, we have to have the average, common, everyday European citizen wanting to be a member of the Catholic Church as well. Therefore, he will focus on the average individual through the creation of a couple new orders. The orders of the Franciscans and Dominicans will begin to emerge here from St. Francis of Assisi and St. Dominic. And these two orders will go about doing the real, honest, hard work of the church, what the church is all supposed to be about. Not just witnessing to people, asking them to return to church, talking to them about their spirituality and their relationship with this Most High God, but ministering to the poor, helping common people, going out and doing the Meals on Wheels and the Habitat for Humanities. This is the stuff in the average everyday person's life. You see these people about in the community making a positive impact. And these people, the Dominicans and Franciscans, will have a huge impact on society. And in some ways, importantly for Pope Innocent III, to act as a counterweight or counterbalance to any potential grumblings they might have about, ooh, what's this excommunication stuff? Is the Catholic Church getting to be a little bit too big, too powerful, so on and so forth. The creation of these two orders, then, the Franciscans and Dominicans, was meant to appeal to the masses, pun intended, and thus have a degree of control through more tolerance per se. At the same time, Innocent's pushing for control through fear for the kings and lords and nobles. Again, the end result here, the end goal here is order. And under Innocent III, we will start to see an orderly Europe. We will. The order established by the leadership of Innocent III, however, is only going to last about 3/4 of a century. And then for the next century after that, there's going to be disorder, largely because the kings of Europe are going to start to get a little bit frustrated with the popes manipulating them, trying to take control over how they will legislate or lead within their own nations. The best example of this happens to be this contest or fight that starts rhetorically at first, and then it gets personal and nasty after that, between Philip IV of France and Pope Boniface VIII. For those interested in the finer details, I'd ask that you go ahead and research this affair. It's pretty convoluted, pretty interesting in a way, really. It is about power, that kings at this time are starting to claim a divine right, that God or nature's God has appointed them here. At the same time, popes have said that God's appointed them here. So if that's the case, who's God's appointed who to be most powerful, right? And that's why these cats are going to begin to throw down. The rhetorical sparring back and forth between Pope Boniface and King Philip's going to come to a head in 1302, November 18th to be specific, when Pope Boniface issues what's known as Unum Sanctum, arguably the most extreme example of papal power in church history. Understand the extreme element here is emphasized by the civil or secular side, which in this case would be Philip IV. But what Pope Boniface is saying here is that the spiritual side, religious side, God's law always trumps man's law. And we'll see this in other movements later. To be sure, we'll see it in American history with the rise of the Transcendentalists. Part of the abolition movement, saying that yes, we understand that you can have the institution of slavery and that you can own individuals as property, but God's law maybe should supersede man's law. We're going to see this throughout history. So how extreme that is, that's subject to some debate. What is extreme here, perhaps, is the notion that Boniface will posit in this papal bull. He basically says, if you are not a part of the Catholic Church, you're dead spiritually. You will have no afterlife. There is no eternal salvation for you. Therefore, the only way to get to heaven, or the land of milk and honey, is to be part of this Catholic Church. And to be part of this Catholic Church, you must submit to the Pope. It's this part of the papal bull, this spiritual directive, that's really going to frustrate most all folks, inside and outside the church. Either way, Philip IV's had enough of this dude and says, you know what? I'll show you power. Here's power. I'm going to send troops down, and he does, and I'm going to arrest you, and he does. And Pope Boniface will be whisked away to Avignon in the south of France, and he's under arrest. While under house arrest, Boniface is going to die. Oh my. So what started out as a little disagreement is fast becoming a major poop show, as we may say these days. Rather than run too deeply down this rabbit hole, I'm just going to continue with a real Cliff Notes version here. Again, for those interested, do research this. It is interesting. It really is. In an effort to replace the deceased Pope Boniface, a College of Cardinals is called. And this is standard practice. Many of you may know this today, that when we go to have a new Pope, these College of Cardinals meet in secret. Everybody, the media, Wolf Blitzer, everybody's standing around waiting to see the white smoke come out. When the white smoke comes out, that signifies we have a new pope selected. Through this selection process of a new pope, and you can read about some of that here, Italians are going to want an Italian pope. The College of Cardinals, which is largely French, of course packed by Philip IV, right? They're going to expect that they have a French pope. What we wind up with at the end of the day is two popes. We're going to have one in Rome now and one in Avignon. This poop show just gets better. This split within the Catholic Church, these two popes, is going to become known throughout history as the Western Schism. And this is going to go on for a long period of time. We're talking 40 years here. Think about this. If you're an average European, a Catholic parishioner, you have to throw your hands up and say, WTF? Like, what's going on here? Really? Can't we just do what the Franciscans and Dominicans are doing? Isn't this what the Catholic mission's supposed to be? Didn't Jesus die on the cross for something more than leaders in the church and leaders in society to have arguments and shoot spitballs at one another? Really? As a result of this, there's going to be many individuals that said, you know what, I'm not even going to church. I'm not putting a 5 on the collection plate. I'm not doing any of this. Forget this. And it's at this point then that Catholic leaders recognize, you know, we've got to put an end to this deal. We really have to. And they call for this really important council known as the Council of Constance. While change won't happen overnight, we're talking 4 years of debate, discussion, disagreement, and eventual compromise. This Council of Constance will end that Great Western Schism. A single pope, Pope Martin V, will be elected. But for the Catholic Church, much of the damage has already been done. Not only has papal power been weakened, the direct challenge by Philip IV, but most importantly, average everyday parishioners, Catholic parishioners, have lost faith in their religious institution. That's a problem. It is. And the Catholic Church is not ever fully going to get it back. They aren't. So in weeks ahead, when we begin to talk about this Renaissance period in European history, this rebirth of Europe, and then in the wake of that, this Protestant revolt, individuals revolting from the Catholic Church, I want you guys to be able to hearken back to this period of turmoil within the Catholic Church itself, because it's really going to set the stage for the Renaissance and Reformation that comes later. Do keep that in mind. And with that, I'll go ahead and wrap up part 3 here and lecture 10 in its entirety. Dr. JC out from the Crusades, the decline of the Catholic Church, on next to some folks that are going to be really good at going ahead and destroying many spiritual faiths, the Mongols.